Namaste. Welcome to Nepal's Top 7 Debaters 2013, produced by Today's Youth Asia. This is the semi-final round in the English category of grade 7, 8 and 9.
Topic for today's debate is marks and grades do not reflect a student's intelligence.
Now I'd like to introduce our panel of judges for today's semi-final round. Our first judge is Mr. Santosh Shah. He is the president of Today's Youth Asia.
Our second judge is Miss Christine Davidson. She is a secondary math teacher from San Diego, California. She has taught speech and debate, coached the high school team, and judged local, state, and national high school speech and debate competitions in the USA.
Our third judge is Mr. David Mosely. He teaches religious studies and philosophy and is also director of global education. He was an avid debater at secondary school and also coached the Bishop's speech and debate team.
May I invite our first debater, Nirisa Manandar, to speak for the motion. She is studying in grade 9 at St. Mary's Higher Secondary School.
Pay attention to your studies, child. Don't you want to get high marks in your examinations? Or is it that you want to cut off our noses in front of the whole society? This is how a conversation starts between a child and a parent today. The parents, on their part, think that they are doing their best to shape the future of the child. But practically, are they actually doing so? Let me give you an example. According to a news report published in the Himalayan Times of 18th March 2013, a massive number of students in different schools of Nepal were found cheating and using unfair means in the SLC examinations that recently ended. What must be the root cause for this? The root cause is undoubtedly to get a distinction. But who gave rise to this cause? The bitter truth is the society and the parents themselves. If only the parents had not pressurized the students to get a distinction, they would not be compelled to do so. And if only the society had accepted the students on the basis of their capabilities, such a situation would have never taken place. And who knows, apart from those students who were caught, there are many other wicked minds behind those innocent faces who managed to escape themselves from the examiner's eyes. Now, I would like to ask my opponents, can we rely on the marks of such cheaters in order to evaluate their intelligence? Certainly not. It will give a directly opposite sketch of their intelligence. In a country like Nepal, not only cheaters, but there are also students who are fond of the so-called by-hearting process. This is the reality. This is the education system of Nepal. Schools and colleges give more priority to those students who can mug up their lessons and gain high marks, rather than those students who have understood the basics of education. Those students who learn their lessons by heart might pass the examinations with flying colors for the time being, but their future leads to nowhere but complete darkness. Thirdly, why does the intelligence of a child have to be based on the marks and grades only? Why not their participation in the extracurricular activities? A child may be an expert in art and craft, the other may be an expert in sports, the other may be an expert in technical fields, and who knows, they can even make these hobbies of theirs as their professions in future and be world-renowned personalities. They can be successful, can't they? In order to take up a job that involves practicality such as engineering, it is very important that you understand the lessons quite well. What is the use of studying such a subject if you cannot even repair a small home appliance of yours? As said by Maya Angelou, it is when we know better, we do better. And that is why in order to be intelligent, it is the life experience that counts the most and not just the marks and grades. And moreover, a growing body of evidence suggests that the marks and grades do not actually ensure success. It is usually the C+ students who end up running the world in the future. Therefore, I would like to conclude my points saying that marks and grades do not actually matter to calculate the student's intelligence. Thank you.
Nirisa, good job. You've been consistent since the very beginning, and that's what I like about you in this series. You're confident, and that's a very good part of any debating. However, when you debate, take your time. Do not rush. Because if the judges, if the viewers can't hear you properly, it becomes very difficult for us to understand what you're trying to get out. Your research is good. You have made some very good logic. At the same time, I think you had less content altogether. 3 minutes is a good enough time to put forth a lot of contents, facts, logics. And although you're a first speaker, you can still have some counter arguments. You can kind of guess what the next speakers are going to say. So I would say we would expect more examples. You still have a rebuttal round where you can kind of pull up.
Thank you.
I also thought you did a very nice job. I liked your intro. I thought it was a good connection with the audience and something that most of us could really appreciate. And I thought you had a very thorough overview of some of the concerns for your points. It was a little dramatic going into darkness if people don't get into college, but I liked that you were trying to connect emotionally. And I agree that you spoke a little bit quickly, and sometimes it was hard to understand all of the words that you were saying, but you had really good passion. And I think because you're speaking so quickly, sometimes you struggled with the words, but overall you had a lot of good confidence. And I liked that you used different resources. You had your own experiences, you used the newspaper, you used an authoress. I thought it was really nice for you to combine all of those things. Thank you.
Well done, Narisha. I thought you did very well indeed. You projected a lot of confidence. You had good examples. There was a fluency to your argument. Again, echoing the comments of the previous judges, I just did think, you sometimes, it was a bit of a torrent, a bit of a tsunami of words at times. And sometimes, believe me, less is more. Sometimes allow pauses, allow a moment, for your arguments and your ideas to sink in and for the audience to process that. And I think that can be a much more effective way sometimes in debating. But overall, good job.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call on stage Saluja Sivakoti to speak against the motion. She's studying in grade 9 at St. Mary's Higher Secondary School.
The job for a CEO is vacant. Would you raise a banner saying that you need someone who is smart and intelligent, and at the same time marks, grades, and a certificate is not required? Does that make any sense at all? Marks and grades do not reflect the intelligence of a student, and I go against the motion. Elisa and Nirisha, my fellow opponents, you are referring to 1 or 2% of the population of the world. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and people like Richard Branson don't make up the whole world. 98 to 99% of the people depend upon their mark sheets for a better future, a better degree that can give them a brighter future tomorrow. I'm not talking about the educational system portrayed in the movie like Three Idiots, where a student needs to by heart everything to score good marks. No, I'm talking about the educational system that Harvard professionals believe in. Harvard professionals believe that students who score above 1400 out of 1600 in their critical reading and maths out of 2400 in their SATs are more intellectual people. That is their trust in their educational system. I believe that people like Bill Gates, okay, you might say that Bill Gates was not a topper, but today the world's best graduates are his employees. Keeping aside the fact that he is an exception, you need to top the world to become professionals in Microsoft. Simply proving to a fact that you need marks, grades, and your qualifications for any field open to you tomorrow. Therefore, I believe that marks and grades do reflect the intelligence of a student. I'm not saying that it is the only way. I'm not saying that it cannot get better tomorrow. But so far, it is the best option. It is the best way that reflects a student's intelligence. It is the best way that provides platform to each and every one of us tomorrow. Why do we need to go to schools? Why do we give examinations if they do not show how intelligent we are? I'm not saying that we need to by heart each and everything, but at the same time, I'm also saying that there is no machine where we can actually weigh our brain and find out how intelligent we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Saluja. That was very good indeed. You again spoke with confidence and a lot of passion, perhaps almost a little bit too intense at times. Maybe tone your voice down just a little bit, so that your audience and your people listening to you, are not so overwhelmed by your arguments. I'm a big fan of Three Idiots, so anyone who mentions Three Idiots in a speech is going to get my vote. But overall, I thought that was a good job. Just not so intense in your presentation, more colloquial and conversational.
I really liked your pace. It was easy to follow and understand what you're saying at all times. I also felt as though sometimes it was as though you were yelling at us because your passion was coming through. But as Dr. Mosely said, maybe just simmer that down just a little bit. And I thought you did a nice job addressing counter arguments that have either been mentioned or will be mentioned. And I like that you were trying to get us to focus not on the 2%, but really the 98%, which is very reasonable. I thought that a lot of your arguments were actually counter arguments, and so it was interesting that I didn't seem to sense a lot of why the testing is good as opposed to just, well, there's nothing else that's better. So I don't know if there's something that maybe is a little bit stronger in the argument, but I really did like how you addressed the counter arguments.
So, Luza, this is the second time I'm judging you, and your contents. I think today's performance was your best in 2012 and 2013. There's still a couple of points that the judges have mentioned, and your stress level shows in your presentation. So, when you debate next, try to bring a bit of variation. Try to be more expressive rather than keeping it monotonous. You still need to work more on your research and your facts. Although today your contents were very well placed and they were very convincing, but then I think you only focus on two topics, which was pretty convincing to me. And in case you only have 2 points where you can convince the judges and your viewers, stick to that only, and you can keep it short. You don't have to complete the entire 3 minutes. You can finish it in 1.5, because debating is all about convincing. So if you can convince that with 2 lines, you don't need to spend the 3 minutes. If you combine both, you could have done much, much better today, but you did very well.
Thank you.
Our next debater is Elisa Persai to speak for the motion. She is studying in grade 9 at Skyrider Higher Secondary Boarding School.
Marks is the outcome of 3 hours efforts of writing. It would not act out as a greater measure of what one actually knows and can do. Testing a student's intelligence through marks means to test it from examination point of view, where exams do not show how intelligent a student is. They rather show the remembrance and recollecting abilities of the students. Change in examination scores never translate into change in students' ability. Rather than marks, manual ability, diplomacy, creativity, and motivation are other important values in general which can be used to measure a student's intelligence. Similarly, a student who gets less marks in the examination cannot be considered as a fool. Getting good marks in the examination and only bookish knowledge does not mean that a student is perfect. Similarly, a student who gets less marks in the examination, you cannot consider him to be less intelligent. There are some students who are extremely good at writing, but there are also some students who have knowledge but cannot express it in paper, so they score less marks. But it is usually seen that when this type of students come in the professional scenario, they are more successful. Let me talk about Pushpa Basnet at first. The whole world knows Pushpa Basnet now, as she was awarded with the CNN Hero of the Year Award 2013. Well, Pushpa Basnet always used to pass with grace marks in her student life. And can any of you present here tell me that Pushpa Basnet is not intelligent? Similarly, Albert Einstein, the greatest physicist ever, also used to pass with grace marks in his examination. Though he used to pass with grace marks in his examination and did not score good during his examination, he is now considered as the most intelligent one. Benjamin Franklin, the famous American, felt arithmetic as a boy and did not score good during his examination. Yet he grew up to serve his nation as a statesman, leader, and scientist. Isaac Newton, a lackluster student, graduated at Trinity College in Cambridge without any shirts of honors and distinction. Sir Winston Churchill was famously at the bottom of his class, and former President George W. Bush was a solid C-grade student during his first year in Yale. If these people were evaluated by their marks, they would be the most stupid ones, not the most intelligent one. You yourself are a student, and I'd like to ask a question to my opponents. You are given 3 hours to solve examination paper in the classroom, examination hall. And do you yourself think that whatever you are able to express within 3 hours can determine how intelligent you are? My fellow opponent argued by saying that marks show the intelligence of the students, it shows how dynamic students are, and so on. But maybe a student gets good marks during his examination by cheating, or maybe a student gets less marks in this examination, even due to reasons such as family quarrels, sickness, and so on. In that case, are you going to say that the student who gets less marks is not intelligent and the student who gets more marks is intelligent? Of course not. Getting intelligence is a part of new thoughts, abilities, ideas, and creativity, not a part of getting good marks. Even the students who are good at extracurricular activities like painting, dancing, drawing, etc. can also be considered as intelligence. Highest scoring students are not able to deal with some practical task. And what's there in scoring marks without having any sorts of practical knowledge? Therefore, I want to tell that marks and grades really do not reflect a student's intelligence. Thank you.
Eliza, I like your enthusiasm.
Thank you, sir.
Very powerful presentation, I would say. You're clear in your content. At the same time, what was missing at the end is you did not sum it well. For me, it was more like listening to an essay being read out rather than a debate, because you also have to consider the fact that you have your counter debaters right there. So you need to have, as a third speaker, you need to have counter arguments, which was kind of missing in your entire content. Your research is very good. You made some amazing examples that I was hoping would come out in today's topic. All the best. Let's see what happens.
Thank you, sir.
Very well done. I thought that your confidence got better as you went into your speech. In the beginning, it was a little bit hard to understand what you were saying, but as you got into it, your enunciation was much better. And I also liked that you started very calm, and then as your speech went on, you got very passionate, and I thought that was a very strong presentation. Sometimes I felt like your arms were moving for no purpose, but a lot of times you had good arm gestures. Your transitions were clear. I liked the language that you used. And also, at the end, it seemed, as he mentioned, that it was a little bit more opinion as opposed to more research-based at the end. And so I also would have liked a little bit more of examples at the end as opposed to just opinion. But I thought that you used really nice examples early on.
Elijah, well done. That was very good. I really like the musicality of your voice and the variation of your tone. It makes you very engaging to listen to. Again, a little bit like Narisha, though. Don't feel the need, to cram too much in there and to move too quickly. Okay. Sometimes Mozart was accused of having too many notes. You've got good notes. Let's make sure that we can hear them and appreciate them. I really liked your examples. That was very smart. When you have two people from America to mention Benjamin Franklin. I liked your examples. Well done.
Thank you.
May I invite Pratna Subedi to speak against the motion? She's studying in grade 9 at St. Mary's Higher Secondary School.
Ronald Reagan, the 40th US President of United States, stated that the top secret for he being elected as the president was not only his intelligence or leadership ability, but the high grades that he got in his high school. This simply exemplifies that grades and marks are important in every field, even for an intelligent student. Marks do reflect the intelligence of a student. This is indisputable. It is the intelligence that is reflected in the exam sheets of the student, isn't it? We can see that students who have high intelligence gain high marks in school. Creativity of a student can be judged through the writing skills in their exam papers, and we all know that creativity is a form of intelligence. Say that the person is intelligent, but how can we evaluate the person if marks and grades are not given? How can we say that the person is intelligent? My opponent mentioned that maybe people might get even marks through cheating, but is it practical for students to get such high marks through cheating and not putting up the intelligence? Actually, intelligence is also a test for a student about how much they can have the capability. I might say that intelligence is not there, but intelligence can also be shown in the examination of a student. I would like to sum up my debate by saying, if this marking and grading system had been so absurd, then why haven't the educational intellectuals tried to remove it and put up a better system for students? Why have this been continuing for more than a century? I'm pretty sure that my opponents will have to agree with me in this terms. Thank you.
Pratna, thank you for your speech. That was good. You started with a good example from President Reagan. Again, well done for flattering your American judges. I was surprised a little bit that your conclusion seemed to come so quickly, because I don't think you had built up a significant body of argumentation and examples before you moved to your conclusion. But compared to some of the other debaters, your conclusion was very forceful. It had good rhetorical questions and made effective points. But make sure that there's a substantial central part to your speech, so that your conclusion sums up and repeats and reminds your audience of the points that you've already made. Well done.
Thank you.
I too thought you had wonderful argumentation at the end. I thought your conclusion was definitely the strongest part of your speech, and you mentioned an argument that hadn't really been addressed before, so I liked that it was a fresh perspective. It seemed like you were a little nervous in the beginning, and then you grew with confidence. But in the beginning, it was a little bit slow to be able to engage with you. And you also seemed very nervous to look at us in the eyes. You were either looking above us or somewhere else, and I wanted to connect with you. So I think it's very important to connect with the people who you really want to persuade, so that we want to believe you. But lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Pratna, you have done much better in the past.
Yes.
You agree that? Yeah, I think you're nervous today, as ma'am said. I was expecting your eye contact, difficult to connect, as ma'am said. However, you are clear with your content. You started with very good content, but you ended abruptly. Like, we didn't feel like you completed the debate today. You started with some good counter arguments, and I was hoping you would come with more of that. and there was definitely less content for a complete debate today. I like the line that you mentioned, that intelligence can be also shown in exams. Something that I never believed in, but you convinced me today.
Thank you, sir.
We now begin with the rebuttal round.
Marks and grades necessarily do not reflect the student's intelligence. My opponents may argue, saying that good marks and grades are required to get admitted in good schools and colleges. But I would like to question you all, a simple question indeed. Why do we actually go to a school or a college? We go there for a purpose, and that is in order to be eligible enough to take up a job in future and earn a livelihood. But let me remind you that at workplaces and offices, the employers take your interview so as to know how much have you utilized your gained knowledge, and not just how much have you, how good are you at the by-hearting process. And my dear friends, have you forgotten about Thomas Edison? He was a dropout at school, but nevertheless the whole world follows his steps till now. Walt Disney, Bill Gates, these are some other great personalities who've been able to conquer the whole world with the help of their intelligence and creativity. Nobody predicted that they would be such great personalities, even after all the difficulties they had to face to just pass an examination. Marks and grades can even be obtained if the question paper was easy, and even if the examiner himself was loose at checking, right? So I totally disagree with the point that marks and grades do reflect the student's intelligence. Thank you.
Marks and grades do reflect the intelligence of a student. Nirisha, you said that Maya Angelou you quoted, those who know better do better. So if someone knows better, it is obvious that he or she can do better in an examination. If Bill Gates was to be given an examination of computer science, maybe he would have topped the world. He was a dropout because he couldn't cope up with subjects like sociology, where he was not so good at. Therefore, I believe that marks and grades do reflect the student's intelligence. So what if the student is not an intelligent in one particular field? I'm not saying that he or she has to be an excellent in every field. That makes a student intelligent, no. But how much that person scores in his or her particular field actually depicts how intelligent the person is in his or her own field. Thank you.
Student studies whole the year and gives examination at the end of the year. And does it mean that by getting less marks, a student is not perfect in his or her studies and is completely awful? Of course not. I don't feel that marks are everything. My fellow opponent said that intelligence of the student is sketched in the examination paper. Intelligence is shown by the marks and grades. I would like to differ in this regard. In our country too, we have heard of students committing suicide when they get less marks in the SLC examination. I feel that comparing intelligence with marks and grades is not simply justifiable for the students, as it depresses them and suppresses their hidden talents. What helps the students survive is their adaptational capability and intelligence that can never be compared with marks. Thank you.
Marks and grades do not only measure the capacity of the examinee, but also of the examiner. We can take various examples of school and college level examinations where students are given certain syllabus to be tested on. Had it not been for the intelligence, then the whole class could have answered the question. But why only a few are able to nail it up, which compels the teacher to give them marks? It is their intelligence itself. Most of the examples my opponent cited were from the foreign land, but here we are arguing in the traditional society of Nepal, where marks and grades marks and grades are very much required, where marks and grades are sought for than the intelligence of a person. Albert Einstein, Thomas Alva Edison, they said, who were foolish at school but later thrived to be the great scientist of the world. But less do they know that this achievement of theirs was brought about by the hard work that they put to improve the low grades which they got in their examinations. Thus, I strongly believe that marks and grades do reflect the student's intelligence, and marks and grades should be given. Thank you.
I request all the debaters to come up on stage. I'd like to request the judges for their decision.
Today, I think it was kind of clear that with one of the debater whom we all agreed upon, and I'd like to ask Saluza Sivakoti to come in the front. Yeah, going for the final. And the second finalist, we kind of struggled a bit because it's difficult to pick from the three of yours presentation today. You had very similar presentation, yet we have to agree on one finalist as the second finalist, and we've decided to take Eliza Prasai for the final. And Prarthana, You missed today. I've seen you in the past, and I was thinking you would at least make it to the final. And Nirisa, today you were nervous than your regular days. You both are very good debaters, and it's sad for us to let you go today. Hopefully next year you can apply again. All the best. Thank you.
Congratulations. The selected debaters will be going to the final round.
Today's topics, marks and grades do not reflect a student's intelligence, was sent by Preeti Sakya. She has received a cash prize of ₹1,000. Congratulations, Preeti. In today's category, Nirisa Manandar of grade 9 from St. Mary's Higher Secondary School has received the maximum Facebook likes, amounting to 90. Congratulations, Nirisa. You can vote for your favorite debaters by liking their photo in our Facebook page.
If you are a student starting in between grade 7 and bachelor's level, you can apply for Nepal's Top 7 Debaters 2014. The application submissions are open now. You can call the TYA office at 4257-250 or email us at youthtya@gmail.com. We will be back next week. Namaste.
Today's Youth Asia presents Nepal's Top 7 Debaters. Every Friday 8 p.m. and every Saturday 2:30 p.m. on NTV Plus.